So as we head to the 6th inning, it's time to come inside the booth, and we've got an absolute legend here, 15-time All-Star, 13 Gold Gloves, Baseball and Cardinal Hall of Famer, World Series champion, NLS MVP, so many accolades. But the one that I think he may be most proud of right now is being the honorary chairman of the Metro Collegiate Baseball League, and it is Mr. Ozzie Smith. Ozzie, thank you so much for joining us, taking some time out today to join us.
Well, thank you, guys. I just drove in from Jeff City. I was part of a charity event up there last night and raising money for the Little League there in Jeff City, and my program here, which is called PGA Reach, and helping kids in the inner city or introducing them to the game of golf.
Another great game, baseball and golf. It's the perfect combination.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, when I was growing up in Southern California, I was never exposed to it, and I see this as a way for kids in the inner city to be exposed to something that they otherwise would not have the opportunity to experience. And you never know. If a kid gets exposed to something that he loves or find that thing that he loves when he's young, he'll never work a day in his life, So it's not only the game of golf, but the business of golf as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about Ozzie. I mean, you do such great work throughout the community in a number of events, not only here with the Metro Collegiate League, all around. And so for you, you've said it's about just helping the next generation find what they love. Just take a minute and talk about what it means when you have support behind these players and these kids and individuals.
Well, I think it's programs like this that are needed to give those kids the opportunity, and my hats off to the Metro League for continuing to have something like this that gives these kids the opportunity, because for the most part it's just trying to get that opportunity. If they get the opportunity, you never know what can happen if they apply themselves.
Well, and baseball is one of those sports now that's kind of in a tricky situation as well. It feels like that the interest has waned a little bit, but you see the talent that we have not only on this field, but really across the St. Louis area, and it's still continuing to grow, and being able to watch this and be a part of it is a huge thing, and we want to try and grow the game as much as we possibly can.
I think we all have to be a part of helping it grow, and one of the problems that we've had through the years is having African-American players play the game, and it's trying to get those guys back in. And I think we have to go into areas that we haven't gone into to find that talent and hopefully give them the same opportunity that these kids are getting here.
Yeah, so what can we do, or just our average watcher, listener that's joining us, what would you say is the best thing we can do to help these young athletes find their place?
Well, just continue to do what you do and being a part of it and doing your part, because it's all about team, and if everybody on the team does their job, then better things happen, So just do your part, what you're doing, talk about it, and let these kids know how important it is to apply themselves, work hard, and know that they're only going to get out of it what they put in. If they don't put anything in, they shouldn't expect anything in return, and that's not just baseball, but that's life.
Well, you gave the MVP award out here just a little while ago, and you look at the numbers that this young man has put up. What do you say when you look at those numbers? I mean, you were a good hitting shortstop.
I asked him, I said, well, where'd you get your talent, your mom? But no, very seriously, you can tell that the parents have done a great job with that young man, and those kids that excel, they're the fortunate ones that have they have a great support system.
Ground out to third to start the top of the 6th inning. Jump in and do some play-by-play if you want to. I mean, you were called. A lot of your games were called by great play-by-play people. Yeah. You got to get your shot here, Ozzie.
Yeah, if I knew some names here, I probably would. I'm a little lost here, but I'm going to let you guys do that. But as I was saying, it's important to have a good support system, and these young men evidently have a good support system, and this is a great outlet for them to be able to experience something. Now, not all of these guys are going to make it, but at least they have the opportunity to see whether or not it's something that they think they'd be able to do.
Yeah, we talked a little bit. It's more than just the game of baseball here. For some of these players, like you said, they will go on and play. Some will not, but it's more about just really the camaraderie that comes together, building young men.
That's exactly right. People ask me now, they say, well, what do you miss the most? Do you miss playing? I don't think any of us miss playing. We find something else to compete with or compete in. The thing that you miss the most is the camaraderie, the friendships that you build over the years, and the relationships. And as I get older, as I gray and go off into the sunset here, I realize that those relationships that you develop, when you're playing and stuff are the thing that you cherish the most at the end.
Well, you don't look like you have retired anytime soon. You look like you can still get out there and play a hell of a shortstop.
I tell you what, they asked me, they said, if you played today, rate yourself if you played today. And I said, probably be in the top 5, but hell, I'm 70 years old.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about the role that you're in now. I mean, you're essentially carrying on the legacy that Stan Musial started in the Cardinals organization, and before that, you're that guy now. Talk about what that means for you, and look ahead at who the next person is that in the Cardinals organization could take over for you.
Well, here again, it's one of those things that just kind of happen along the way. When you look up, I looked up one day and I was the oldest guy. And the guy that people, the 80s was such a special time for baseball here in this city. And, for me to be a part of it was very, very special. Let's just talk about the home run, for instance. I was lucky enough to be in a spot where the great Jack Buck was on the mic at the time, And as I go off into the sunset, it's nice for people when people come up to you and tell you that about those moments, those special moments that they spend at the ballpark with their family members, say grandfather, grandmother, and stuff. And the real blessing for us as players is being able to be a part of creating moments that last a lifetime. That's the real blessing. And, I don't think that I could have been in a better place from a baseball standpoint than this city right here, because people take their baseball very seriously, and it's passed down from generation to generation. I think it's been very frustrating for these people here in this town over the last couple of years because there's the expectation of success that they know we're not going to win every day or every year, but 1 year or 2 years off and we go crazy. and that's what we're experiencing right now, So hopefully these guys, we got a lot of good young guys on our team. Everything starts with pitching. You got to have pitching. If you don't have pitching, it doesn't matter how good you are offensively. You've got to be able to stop people. And when I say pitching, it basically means defense. You got to be able to play good defense if you're going to compete in the league. And it starts with pitching, and we can't do anything behind him until he releases that ball. And I'm just hoping that they are able to get their pitching staff together and got a lot of good young arms. But it's not just about having arms. It's about learning how to control a pitch and get a ground ball when you need it. And I'm always asked, who were some of the pitchers that I had to face when I was coming up and learning to hit. My defensive prowess allowed me to remain at the big league level, but I had to learn to hit against Nolan Ryan, Fergie Jenkins, Tom Seaver, Steve Carlton. People that weren't just throwers, they were pitchers, and their job is to keep you off balance. And all of those guys knew how to move it up and down, in and out, and change speeds. And, it's wonderful when you have a chance to see some guys today who are not just throwing 100 miles an hour. People that can go from say 90 miles an hour down to 70 or 75, and throw strikes.
Right, and I love because I just remember, the Maddox and even those type pitchers that they didn't necessarily have to overpower you. They just outsmarted you with location a lot of the time, and I think we miss that part of the game now.
It's a chess match. I mean, it's cat and mouse, One day he gets you, the next day you get him,
That's
right. It's one of those things that at the end for me it was very gratifying because I had to learn the art of hitting here at the big league level, and having a 262 average against the likes of the Seavers and the Ryans and the J.R. Richards, was quite an accomplishment for me. Now, it took work, I had to hit every day. It wasn't, it wasn't given to me. So there's a real appreciation for what, I was able to accomplish over 19 years. And it was fun. I had some great teammates, too, and I had a great manager. Everybody, all the other managers were playing checkers. I had a guy that was playing chess. And Whitey was, he was that guy. And, I always tried to pick his brain as to where he was. And you always saw him near had the scorecard, and he always had his Sharpie out. And it was always keeping his club in a position. We were always in a position to win. We were never going to be outmanaged, and we knew that. And that was an advantage, too, going to the ballpark every day, knowing that we had somebody on our side who knew exactly what it was that he was doing, and in many cases was able to manipulate the situation or the matchups that he wanted at the end of a ball game.
Well, you talk about that, and I have to ask you, with the rise of technology, how has that kind of changed the way baseball is played? Do you see it as being a little bit of an advantage, or do you feel like it's one of those things that it's just a tool that needs to be used to make the game a little bit better?
It's a tool and stuff, but you don't want to use it too much. You don't want to lose the human element. The human element is what makes this a great game, and I say that looking back at 1985. But I think that technology is a great part of what we do, and the clock, I think, was a great addition. I'm not so sure about instant replay. I think the idea of instant replay was right to determine whether the ball was fair or foul or whether it went over the fence or not. But what's happened is we instant replay every play.
Yeah.
Now, the clock was to speed it up, but you slow it down because we use instant replay all the time.
Right.
Well, we are incredibly thrilled that you were able
Yeah.
to sit down with us. We don't want to take up much more of your time because, like you said, you just got back in from Jeff City. I'm sure you're going to rest, maybe go down, catch a couple more of these innings. But it's been an absolute honor. I emulated you in the field growing up. I loved watching you play, and it's an absolute honor to be able to just sit down and talk baseball with you for a few minutes. Ozzie Smith, a great honor. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. The last couple of days have been pretty special because last night and today I got to spend it with Willie McGee.
There you
How
go.
about that?
Absolutely.
One heck of a friend and teammate to have for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for what you're doing, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Ozzie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ozzie.
Ozzie Smith, the Wizard of Oz, the legend, honorary chairman of the St. Louis Metro Collegiate Baseball League. That was a thrill.
Absolutely. I mean, what do you say? I mean, a Hall of Famer sitting beside you, just talking the game of baseball, you realize how much just passion he has, not only for the game of baseball, but for young players, young athletes especially, and just helping them find the fun in life and continue to do these things.
And that's the thing, like, we talked a little bit about the Cardinals, but for the most part, it was about the game going on the field, the young players, the next generation, and it's about building up the game of baseball. You could sit there and talk for hours with a legend like that about his playing days, but it's more about looking forward to the future, about what these young men are doing.
Absolutely.